Hello and welcome to the Runaway Franchise podcast. They say all good things must come to an end, but we found a glaring exception: movie franchises. For years, studios have been putting out sequel after sequel, but why? Each week we'll break down a different series that has 4 or more films in it. Are they all bad? Lots of them tend to be. Do we hate ourselves? Maybe. At the core of it, we really just like movies, and that's why we're doing this. My name is Ed, and I'm joined here by my good friends Dom and Tom.
Yo.
Hey.
And the first series we're looking at is 2002's Resident Evil. Resident Evil started in 1996 as a horror survival video game, spawning several successful and some not so successful sequels of its own. But in 2002 to 2017, for some reason, they thought it was a good idea to make 6 movies. So we've recently watched together Resident Evil and then 2004's Resident Evil Apocalypse. So let's get a little bit into the plot of the first movie. Who's doing it?
I'm looking at the box right now. Who better than the box to tell us the plot?
Yes.
A team of paramilitary commandos must battle flesh-eating undead, killer mutant dogs, and supercomputer deadly defenses. Typo on the box.
Oh, yeah.
And supercomputer deadly defenses. That kind of makes sense, I guess. Before an unleashed virus consumes humanity in the adaptation of the hit video game series that has nothing to do with this plot.
All right, so the video game has relatively nothing to do with the movie.
They're zombies.
Except for the game name, really.
And zombies.
And zombies. So the movie is just rocky from start to finish, and there are so many plot holes. It's almost like they shot and looked at the dailies and then figured out like 4 more questions they'd have to come up with an answer to the next day. Because we all took notes, and they're all questions.
Every single thing is a question.
So Tom, why don't you tell us, just bring us through like the first half of the movie.
Well, the first half of the movie is the computer defenses is nicknamed the Red Queen, or named the Red Queen, and it's based off of some developer's daughter for some reason, because they needed to make a CGI version of his daughter.
Well, they wanted a creepy kid. You have to have a creepy kid in an early 2000s kind of horror movie.
But anyway, a mysterious figure throws a vial of what we later learn is the T virus, which is an evolving virus that
spreads through the air at first.
It spreads through the air at first, and then goes to your blood, or no, it goes from water to air to blood for whatever.
It's really unclear. It's just as convenient as it is for the plot. That's what the virus does.
To stop the spread, the computer goes into full defensive mode and tries to quarantine everyone in the hive, but not only quarantine, but murder
What's the hive?
The hive is the corporation's headquarters of sorts.
Umbrella Corporation. That's the only thing I think the game has in common. Umbrella Corporation is bad in the game. They're also bad in the movies.
As in bad guys.
I don't know. They're bad in all ways. Bad man pajamas.
And then we see a naked Mila Jovovich, who's playing Alice in this movie, wake up from her slumber, and then
with amnesia,
goes throughout the house trying to figure out what's happening. She finds guns, and then she tries to go outside, and then it gets real windy, and then some rando dude pulls her in.
Rando commandos.
And then the rando commandos come in, bursting through glass windows and fucking up everyone's interior furnishing to just grab these 2 people. At this point, a defenseless woman and some guy with a button-up shirt.
You know what the confusing part about that is? The commandos burst in and they work for the commandos. They are operatives for the commandos.
Well,
Why
no,
are they so hostile?
the one guy doesn't. She does at this point. He's just a cop.
There's another guy who does.
And he just transferred.
Matt or Max. According to Wikipedia, his name is in fact Matt. Throughout the film, you can't really. It's hard to figure out his name. He doesn't matter at all.
No one really says anybody's names except.
So the reason
Alice,
he's
probably.
there is because he's looking for information about his sister, who worked in the Umbrella Corporation research facility. So pretty much, they get down there into the facility. And part of it's filled with water. So oh God, I guess we got to go the long way to shut down the girl computer. So it takes 20 minutes for them to get to the computer. And then they get to the most famous hallway in horror movie franchises.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna make that statement and stick by it.
They go back. I mean, I don't want to go too far ahead, but they go back to this hallway a lot in this franchise.
The hallway is really
it's
important.
It's the most killingest enemy in the movie.
Yeah, it's killed the most in the movie.
So basically, the commandos are there to shut down the supposedly haywire supercomputer, and they get there, and there's like a couple like really shitty early 2000s like tech, let's crack this passcode like scenes. There's a guy slowly typing on a computer, but like a whole bunch of shit's popping up really fast. And like, all right, let's go to the end of the hallway. And then lasers just start cutting people up.
Slicing and dicing, baby.
After like half the cast dies, like 20 minutes in, they're like, all right, let's get to the...
Yeah, that hallway kills 4 characters immediately.
Let's get to the computer.
Not only kills 4 characters, but never comes into play again.
No.
So basically they fix the computer, and the computer's like, oh, I only did this because the virus is out. So they're like, all right, I guess you're not that bad.
No, before they reboot it, she just goes, hey guys, don't do this. You're all going to die. She doesn't actually explain anything about the T-virus. If she had explained anything, they could have been more prepared. They probably could have just filed a report and everybody
you know what? Let's just go back out the way we came. We'll let everybody else deal with this. This is fine.
Then you wouldn't have a movie.
I mean, isn't that the ultimate of the movie? They just leave. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
They just want to leave after that point. They don't want to do anything. The mission was to shut down the computer. Then they realize, oh God, there's zombies everywhere because the virus.
And then Alice puts clearly a VCR
into some sort of
receptacle, and they fix the computer and like, all right, let's get out of here. And then it's like your standard. It's not your standard zombie movie, because in zombie movies they tend to be like this threat that you can kind of see, but like out of nowhere, like 50 of them will just be like, we're here now. Like, we were super quiet for like the whole way over, and now...
Well, it all starts with Rain and that other military dude, like, just chilling with the cop, Matt, and they're in the warehouse area with a bunch of pods, and one scientist zombie, like, just stumbles over, and they freak out. Well, they don't freak out. They're like, who the hell are you? And then Rain gets bit in the hand immediately. And then she blows her away.
Rain, played by Michelle Rodriguez.
Emrod, our favorite.
She blows that person away. And then when like everybody else who still survived the hallway comes in and says, why is there shooting? They're like, oh, there's a zombie over there, but the zombie's gone.
They're very
sneaky.
Yeah. So one thing leads to another, and they have to get out. And there are, in these pods, there's these liquor guys who are really, really poorly CGI'd.
Really long tongues. That's
really
why they're
long
liquors.
tongue guys. And
also the only other link to the games that I can really... Umbrella, the liquors, that's about it.
Bullets.
Virus, I
Bullets
guess.
and virus.
Right?
And
So...
the dogs.
Pretty much.
Okay, yeah, the dogs.
There's a scene where there's some Dobermans with the meat on them, the meat dogs, and they kick the dog through a window.
Right in the face.
You can tell when someone's about to get hurt because like techno, like sci-fi, get you pumped music.
And you know something uninteresting is going to happen because they'll go into slow motion.
Right. A lot of slow motion that shouldn't be slow mo. Like looking at a gun in slow motion happened like 3 times.
The back of a bullet that doesn't do anything.
With an umbrella logo on it.
Mm.
So pretty much they decide that they have to get out, and then they get out, and there's like a really shitty train fight. And
would you even call that a fight? I mean, they're just trying to knock the liquor off the train,
and they do,
and the liquor explodes.
No, he hits the third rail and he gets electrocuted.
He explodes.
No,
you hit the third rail.
It's giant fire.
Not an explosion. That's
giant
a fire.
Fireball comes out.
There can be a fire without an explosion.
Can there be an explosion without fire?
No, maybe.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. Next time we'll talk about that.
Isn't that a nuke?
So,
maybe.
At the end of the movie,
Or
I'm just
grenade.
going to jump to the end because it's really not that. It's just shitty
yeah,
action for like an hour and 20 minutes.
We're in the building.
Zombies.
We don't want to be there anymore. Let's get out.
Yeah,
Zombies only kill one guy.
I mean,
The liquor kills everybody else.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So they get out. They kill the licker, and then Matt or Max, his wound from the liquor begins mutating, and they drop a hint to the second movie.
Yep.
And Alice is in some like hospital setting with a bunch of tubes which have air in them for some reason, not safe. And she's got a really shitty hospital gown that looks like 2 pieces of paper with scotch tape.
They knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing because you get to see her, which is fine. And then she's wakes up strapped to the exam table, and she steps outside to find Raccoon City abandoned and ruined. And she grabs a shotgun from an abandoned police car, and the camera pans out.
Now, we're shitting all over this movie, and the way we're talking about it, you would think this movie bombed, but this movie was a box office success.
Right. So we're trying to just kind of figure out why these movies were successful enough to warrant sequel after sequel, and really, most of the time it comes down to money.
Money, baby.
So this movie cost $32 million to make, and it brought in...
It shows.
102
it
million
shows that it was
worldwide.
only
102 million. So if you spend 30 and you get 100, you're doing pretty good. So obviously this was
they
enough.
only estimated that they would make 90 from it. So
Right. It beat expectations.
That's pretty good.
So assuming that they had a pretty good idea that this movie was going to be successful enough to warrant a sequel, they kind of bled movie 1 into movie 2, I think pretty well. Like they did
and also, like, I think some of the excitement about this franchise was zombie movies were finally coming back. Like 28 Days Later also came out in 2002 and was a radical success.
This was a pretty poor zombie movie, though.
Yeah,
I don't even.
Yeah, but the entire fact that zombies were becoming more popular again brought life to, okay, there's an audience for this. Let's keep milking this audience.
So
they milked them, boy. They milked them good.
The only good thing about, not the only good thing, like, I'm not gonna lie, when the movie came out, I was like, what, 12, 13? I probably saw it when I was 13. Probably rented it at Blockbuster.
I love this movie.
Super into it at 13.
Yeah.
At 28,
no.
15 years later, it's not good.
I still love Mila.
We all do, but it's like, it's just not good. The only cool thing about it, like, is you could almost watch the movies like a TV series. Like, you could binge watch 1 into 2, like we just did. You shouldn't. It's 3 hours you'll never get back. But I have to give them props for 2 years later going from one movie into the next so seamlessly.
Okay, yeah. I'd also say it is a garbage movie. Yeah, it's really, really bad. But we were talking about it before, and I think it's a good movie for, you got a strong female character.
Right.
It's something that you don't see too often. She's a badass. She kicks a dog in the face. She shoots dudes in the face.
But you know what? She was pretty quiet in this movie, though. She comes into her own in the rest of the movies.
Does she? I don't know. The shots are just her face and kind of scowling, and then sometimes she will smile and then say a badass line.
Okay. So that brings us on to Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse. So
coming out 2 years later.
2 years later in 2004, and they name each Resident Evil movie like it's going to be the last one.
I think also the names were because they wanted to actually separate it from the video games, because the video games, their titles never interact, I don't think.
No, they never. 2, I think, in the games is just Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
3 is when they call it Nemesis. 4 is just, I think, 4. 5, I think they just...
Yeah, but
7 is Biohazard.
They don't use the names that
No.
this movie, and I think that's a way to separate the franchises, because you are getting a completely different version of Resident Evil with these movies.
Well, hold the phone, my friend, because in Resident Evil 2, we start to see some characters from the Resident Evil games, okay? When Resident Evil 2 starts up, you see, it's Jill Valentine.
Beautiful Jill Valentine.
Okay, so Jill Valentine from the second game in the second movie. Perfect, right?
Great.
A perfect start.
Sounds great.
Sounds good, like it's going to be a great time.
Also, Nemesis.
Sounds like it's a really good movie.
Let's bring in, you know what? And let's bring in, they hint at Nemesis, who's pretty big, kind of badass monster with a Gatling gun from the third video game. And that's really it stops there. So they bring him in. So you're like, you know what? If they bring Nemesis into this could be pretty cool. So Now, the plot of the second movie is is really stupid. I'm going to go ahead and say it's stupid. So
Yeah.
Alice wakes up, right?
Yep.
She's in the hospital again. There's a bunch of flashbacks from the first movie. So they're like, oh shit, I remember that first movie. That was a real dumper.
If you plan on watching the first one and the second one back to back, save yourself 10 minutes. Just don't
Skip.
watch the first 10 minutes of the
Right.
second one. You already got that information.
So she wakes up
And it's roughly 13 hours later.
Yeah, the time elapsed is like the next day. And she's somehow more powerful, I think, right?
Yeah.
She wakes up
she's
more
strong.
powerful.
They did some great surgeries.
And basically, Umbrella Corporation has built in 13 hours a giant concrete wall around the city. Very
Gotta
topical.
contain the virus.
So basically, the guy who's the software developer for Umbrella Corp, who built the supercomputer
in the first movie,
his daughter's truck, who's being her personal transport truck, gets hit by a cement truck. And she's basically stuck in the walled-in city. So he communicates with a couple people inside via payphones. I guess he was watching
Payphones
them.
were big in this movie.
With keyboards, payphones with keyboards
and monitors.
And monitors. And he's like, "Oh, get my daughter out. I'll get you a helicopter.
I can get you out of the city if you find my daughter."
Right. So there's commando guys because I think they needed more action. So
there is a lot more.
There's
pretty much nonstop action.
Yeah, there's two elite forces. There's the actual Umbrella Corporation commandos, and then there's the Stars commandos, who are just glorified police, for lack of a better.
They're supposed to be the good guys.
They're like the
SWAT team.
Yeah,
commandos.
they're like the SWAT of the Raccoon City.
So,
and for whatever reason, the Umbrella Corporation pits all these normal human being commandos against the Nemesis
for no reason.
Monster.
For no reason.
No, like, you know what? Fuck it. Turn on Nemesis.
Give him a Gatling gun and a bazooka.
Right. And let's make this an action movie.
Let's see what our test subject can do.
Right.
Because we're going to use it, and then, it gets destroyed.
All these people are going to die anyway.
Right. So I don't even know. I'm going to have to look up the plot right now because it was such a blur.
It's really just
it's nothing.
Again,
nothing happens.
Find the girl, fight the Nemesis.
Yeah, and it kind of mirrors the plot of the first one. We go to do something, and now we can't do it because essentially once they find the girl's dad dies. So
Right.
who cares?
He gets shot.
We got the girl for the dad, and the dad is now dead. We got to get out of here. The same thing happened in the first one. Right? We got to shut down the
Yeah,
computer.
but
let's get out of
but
here.
in the first one, there's not a knockout, drag out sword fight between Nemesis and Alice.
Right, and that's why it's slightly better because
Right.
you get that action and you get more zombies. Even though the zombies are, anytime you see a zombie on the screen, there's this weird effect of them like slow.
Oh, there's this
moving.
horrible
It's terrible.
slow frame rate, like
Yeah.
jumpy camera. It looks horrible.
But to balance it out, you get a guy ziplining out of a helicopter, firing two guns at once.
Yep.
You get Alice miraculously getting to the top of a building and then basically doing the
She
same thing
runs
except
down it.
running down that building.
And Alice's big entrance into the film, she fucking blasts through an 18-foot tall church window. I don't know if there's a ramp outside. I don't know if most churches are equipped with motorcycle ramps, but she blows through the stained glass window, guns ablaze, saves the day, but we don't know how she knew that people were in there in
save
trouble. And then
knew her motorcycle wouldn't hit any of them, just the
no, it's
liquor.
fine. It's fine. If you crash a motorcycle through a church, you probably have a pretty good idea what you're doing. So now there's this ragtag bunch of commandos and Alice, and they have to find the kid and whatever. A couple clashes with Nemesis, and then they're on the roof and they fight the maybe French, German, French guy. The bad guy.
Who really doesn't have much screen time.
Nope. They get the bad guy and they throw him out of the helicopter, and of course he gets eaten by zombies, but not before he launches the tactical nuclear assault on the city to cleanse it of the virus. And he does. They do it. He gets kicked out. The helicopter is flying away, and the sunrise.
Alice and her crew get out. Ooh, interesting side note. Alice in this movie was not played by Mila Jovovich. She was played by Jar Jar Binks.
She was played by Jar Jar Binks.
This was not directed by Paul Anderson, and you can tell because his wife does not look gorgeous in it. throughout the entire movie.
No, she's wearing like bell bottoms and like a shitty brown shirt, and I'm like, she looks like Jar Jar Binks.
Her hair matches Jar Jar Binks' ears.
Yeah. So I brought up a picture to side by side, and the similarities were shocking. And that pretty much ruined the movie, I think, for the rest of us. That was the whole
somehow
pretty much ended there.
But to balance that out, they thought of putting in a beautiful actress to be Jill Valentine.
Okay,
who
yeah.
really doesn't do anything else ever besides be Jill Valentine and Helen.
Yeah, that's...
she completely understood the situation immediately. She went into that police the police
station.
Yeah. The police station.
And just let's all go.
Everybody was messing around with the zombies trying to arrest them. She was just like pow in the head, pow in the head, pow in the head. Shoot them in the head. They're zombies. Like,
again, another strong female character.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is good. Badass. Props to Resident Evil for
good job.
Strong female lead characters. But okay, so we're back to the plot. We got off track a little bit. The tactical nuke goes off. The helicopter's flying away.
Oh, right.
The
that's
helicopter.
Not the end.
No,
wow, that's not
the helicopter. You'd think that's the end. The helicopter crashes.
Yep.
Alice gets hit in the face with some sort of projectile, and Umbrella Corporation finds her in the wreckage, and they bring her back to her little fish tank that she sits in, like a little fish, naked fish. And
again, that's 2 for 2.
Again, 2 for 2 movies where there is gratuitous Mila Jovovich nudity. It's absolutely essential to the franchise. Sales probably. So they turn her into some super weapon. She doesn't remember. She really almost stabs a guy in the eye with a pen, and then she escapes, and her friends fake their security thing. They have really cool suits, and
they bust her out.
They bust her out, and at the end they say Project Alice is activated, and then a close-up of Alice's eye reveals the Umbrella logo flashing
in
her
she eye.
Is under their control. So they pull away to a gate, and then the evil scientist just says, let them go. And they drive off into the night and roll credits with Kill Switch Engage at the end. First movie, we had Slipknot, taking it to Kill Switch Engage for the end of this movie.
I wonder who's going to be the third.
I really hope it's someone great.
And again, we talk about this movie as if it should be a disaster.
It is a disaster.
It's a disaster.
But it's somehow better than the first.
Yeah, it did better than the first movie.
Yeah, but
grossing $129 million worldwide.
You know, what I found interesting was the fact that it was rated the worst in the franchise, but right now,
I think flying high off this movie,
I think this one is probably one of the better ones because it's less, less gabbing and slowness. And
this was another movie that I was like, you know what? But when we decided that we were doing Resident Evil like this afternoon, I was like excited. I was like,
oh my God,
dude, I'm going to watch Resident Evil again. I used to like that movie when I was 13. And now 15 years later, I'm like, oh my God.
No.
Either I was horrible or these movies did not age well.
Well, it's also that like during this time, like The Matrix had come out. Charlie's Angels was kind of cool at the time. Like the Blade movies were cool. And it's that essential 2000s movie.
Right.
Like,
that
like we're kind of just kick ass to be kick ass. Like we don't have a plot really. We just are in your face constantly.
It was pretty in your face. So we've watched both movies, and at this point, really, I think the driving force behind why they keep going is because they keep making money. Like people are watching
and these movies are fairly cheap.
And they crank them out pretty cheap, and we're in 2017, and there's a new movie out this year.
Yep.
So from 2002 to 2017, 15 years, there have been 6 movies. So that's kind of impressive.
And you got to give props to Mila because I feel like she is the driving force that keeps this movie trucking. She has been the constant throughout, right?
Yeah, she's the one character. I mean. We'll get it.
We're not going to have no spoilers here, but there might be a couple of recurring roles that we're excited about.
I'm so excited to keep going with this.
So yeah, I think the more we look at it, the more we're going to find out that the driving force behind a sequel is money. And hopefully we get to a point where we find some movie franchises that are actually good and like we don't want to see end. But right now, we're breaking it in with something that like probably shouldn't have happened. But now think about it this way. What if the first movie was made in 2017?
I think if the first movie was made in 2017, it would be so different because the games have become even more successful somehow. Uh, and I think they would realize like sometimes sticking to the source, like in the games, there is no Alice character. And
Right.
in each movie, they keep inserting characters from the games. It's going to happen. Spoiler alert, in every movie to follow. They're just gonna keep throwing, oh, I know this character from the game. I know this character from the game. Yeah. They're kind of bad. But I think if it was made now from the start, it would probably be a lot better and more closer to the source material and like in tone and in,
I mean, I just played the new Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and it was fucking scary.
yeah,
Like,
these movies are not.
It was the first game I've ever played where I was like, yo, this is scary. Like, there's jump scares. It's creepy. You have to go into basements. There's a morgue. There's a boiler room. There's just like shit you don't want to do. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm afraid to go do my laundry later because like I'm
You
going
got
down a
creepy
creaky staircase. Like these movies had none of that. It was just goofy, kicking things and dogs and shitty CGI monsters. Like
yeah.
there's nothing scary or horror about them, but
Yeah.
they're just kind of like action-y.
I kept on saying it's the equivalent of a superhero movie.
No, you kept saying it was a superhero movie.
It is a
There's no
superhero
superhero.
movie. It is a superhero.
Who's the
No,
superhero?
Alice. Alice is clearly the super. She has a sword fight with a monster.
No, she
Doesn't
didn't have a
matter.
sword.
No, that
A
wasn't
baton fight. Whatever.
Well, he had a medal.
I
thing.
don't. Last time I checked, batons were not a superpower.
Ooh.
just
no, her jumping like 12 feet in the
Yeah.
air.
No,
she-
she was manufactured.
Okay.
Yeah, with super abilities.
No.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Now you're bringing.
How
a
is
whole-
Batman a superhero?
Batman's not a superhero. He's a rich guy.
Oh, he's a detective. It's called Detective Comics.
Yep.
You worked for DC. Come on.
Come on, guy.
This is infuriating.
Got him. But yeah. So, which movie, Dom, do you think was better, one or two?
One. I mean, two. Definitely.
Oh
by,
God, I was gonna say
Two. Definitely by a long shot. One was really, really bad and really boring. Two. I mean, we're going on an upward path.
Yeah, I think
guess
we're
this is why the movies are going.
we're
Like,
feeling
okay,
pretty good.
we're making more money. We're making a lot more money. Our budget's still low. And the movies are actually, this one critically was not as well
No.
received, but I think it's a better movie.
Right.
I think that's why they kept going.
I had more fun watching it.
I guess the critical response was a little less, but I mean, fans on Rotten Tomatoes seem to equal.
It's
about
it's
equal.
a couple percentage points. There's a
Yeah.
okay.
So it's at least maintained its whatever
Whatever it is.
quality that you want to give it, but it's maintained it.
Tom, what do you think one is better, one or two?
I believe one. The second one is better. It's actually more of a monster movie at the very least. There's actual zombies that get some kills on people, and the main monster is a monster. Like we didn't get some weird robot hallway that kills most of the cast.
Right.
And I felt like that was the biggest problem with the first one, is that it relied too much on being clever, that this supercomputer is the bad guy, but it's misleading. It's like a red herring technically.
It wasn't even like that wasn't even glaringly obvious either. It wasn't like, oh, the computer did a switch. It's not a bad computer. Like it was just like, fuck it, let's just leave.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. Let's just go. That being said, I thought the second one was better. I like the practical effects of Nemesis. I thought the
Yeah.
makeup was pretty
Oh,
They
decent.
they never went with a CGI for him, which
No,
was surprising.
I mean, they did CGI
There's
facial
one, yeah.
reconstruction type of thing.
oh
they-
yeah, okay.
But most of it was practical, which means it looked
Yeah, right.
much
Anytime
better.
it was
Oh,
just-
we forgot the other part where it. Well, did we say that Nemesis is Matt from the first movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we
yeah.
did. Okay.
So
But he's dead. He's dead now. He's not coming back. Or is he?
Well, I guess he did get Omniblast. I don't know what you
I
call
don't
that
know.
rocket that happened.
It was a nuke. Whatever.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that number 2 is better. I appreciated the practical effects. There was action, but it was really overall it was still pretty bad. Like I remember being okay with it when it came out. I liked it, and now I'm like, oh my god, this is bad. But it's not as bad as the first one. So like, I
Yep.
think we're getting blinded by like if you have a really bad movie and then you watch a bad movie is good in comparison.
Yeah.
So now that you know how we feel about Resident Evil 1 and 2, what's next? Resident Evil 3
And 4.
and 5 and 6.
Ah.
Shit. So next time you will hear us discussing Resident Evil 3 and 4. Do we have the titles
Yeah,
on
what's
3
the
and 4?
subtitle of 3?
Extinction, Resident Evil 3 Extinction.
That's
and,
the third one.
yeah, and Resident Evil 4, I believe, is Afterlife.
Right.
Or it could be not Afterlife. That
No.
could be the 5th one. I think that might be the 5th one.
Oh, geez. I'm going to look it up just for the hell of it. It's 2017. We have good phones. I can't type Resident Evil.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that franchises all kind of have a similar formula. At least long-running franchises all have a similar formula to them. There's always like a central figure that the whole franchise is built around. Like you think about RoboCop, it's all about RoboCop. The Friday the 13th is Jason. He's the one you wind up following throughout the series. Freddy, you know, there's always a central character that is the most interesting, that really keeps a franchise going and kept alive.
True, yeah. Surprisingly, Alice is that character. Someone with very, very little.
Yeah, she got a
anything.
good spin kick though.
And it seems like they really copy and paste plot lines. Like it's always
Sure.
going to start with
Someone waking up, not remembering shit in a field, and they're going to kill a couple guys, and then they're going to realize that they're strong, and then they're going to do some stupid fucking task for no reason. They're going to realize, all right, let's go. Let's get out of here.
You guys haven't seen
And
3 or
then-
4.
no,
have you?
I'm
You guys
excited.
are in for a treat.
So next time, tune in for Resident Evil Extinction from 2007, followed by Resident Evil Afterlife
I was
from
right.
2010. Thanks for listening to the Runaway Franchise Podcast. If you have any questions, drop us an email. I'm sure there'll be links somewhere and some sort of thing. And if you have any suggestions for movie franchises that you'd like to hear about, whether they're good or bad, let us know.